It's been a while since we made a video. So we're studying American Civil War tonight. We're going to run a small campaign. I apologise for a bit of background noise here, but my printer is knocking some stuff off for the game. We're going to play an old board game of mine. I've never played it. It's called Stonewall in the Valley. So obviously Stonewall's Jackson, 1862 in the valley. So you can see I've got cannons on the map there. So these depict the initial deployment of the various forces. Over here you have the Union stretched along here in the Rockingham to Augusta areas. Over there you've got Stonewall and Ewell. So this scenario depicts Ewell taking part very early. And then over on the far side here we've got some more Union brigades, a single regiment up there. Down here, Staunton, and there's a brigade of Confederate infantry down here. So the objectives here, the Union have to stop the Confederates taking McDowell, Franklin, Harrisonburg, and there's one other which escapes me right now. And we play 14 turns. There's 2 movement phases per turn. The Confederacy will move first. They cannot get within 4 hexes of the Union in the first move. So we'll see what happens. If you're interested, we are playing these rules. Mr. Lincoln's War, regimental side. Very good rules. Produced all the markers for that as well. Thank God for 3D printing. As you can see, all my little keppies. I'll bring one right up to the thing here. There's my little keppie. So they've got numbers on them, so the players can write down what force is under that keppie. And then we'll have a scouting and move per turn, depicted with cavalry scouts going out. Keeping it fairly simplistic, not worrying about supply too much. I will brief the Union and Confederate players. I'll play as the umpire, then I'll play in the games, but I'll alternate between the sides, so I'm not biased in any way. And then tonight we're just going to start putting the forces together. I'm going to walk you over there now. Just follow me. And here's all the forces. There's my standing knife. So, printed them all out, as you can see. Again, always used sticking these pieces of paper to the back of the infantry bases. And to be honest, I was pretty sick of doing it. So, we have these. There you go. Little keppie. There's a slit in the keppie, and therefore it sits in there nicely. As you can see, I've made headway with doing a lot of, that's Banks's division here, using the knife here, Hatch's cavalry brigade, the artillery, that's Schenck, got Shields, straight grey keppies for the Confederacy, there's Jackson. So if you haven't played Mr. Lincoln's War, it's 80 men a stand, 40 men for cavalry. They go from elite down to raw, and the commanders go from poor all the way through to charismatic. Jackson is charismatic. So what it allows him to do is he can influence 5 units on the tables. He gets issued 5 orders if he's required to. Exceptional divisional commanders or brigade commanders, 4, good 3, poor 2, etc., etc. Oh, I should say average 3, 4, 2. So what can get difficult in this game is you've really got to work it out. So when you look at, here's a good example here. I have to find one. Here we go, Milroy's Brigade. So Milroy has the 25th Ohio, 32nd Ohio, 73rd, 75th Ohio, 2nd West Virginia, 3rd West Virginia. Now, he is classified as a good commander, so he could issue 3 orders per turn, or change 3 orders per turn, but you note he's got 6 regiments, which means he can only influence 3 every turn, which means the other 3 will continue doing what he ordered them the previous turn. Now the key here is there's an influence range, so when you're outside 24 inches, you don't have to issue orders. You can do what you want. Move, deploy, etc, etc. When you get within 12, you then have to issue orders. So we'll set up tonight and I'll add to this video very shortly. Hey everyone, just a continuation of where I left off the other night. Last night for everything. So as you can see, we've had some movement. If you remember the map from last time, all the Confederates were around here, which is down where Elk Run Church is, and they've marched down here. On my map, get rid of him. And we've congregated just outside Harrisonburg. So Harrisonburg is sitting just there. Force 2 is Shields' division. He's sitting 1 hex outside Harrisonburg. 3 is some Union cavalry. 4 is small Union cavalry. They're actually there with Shields. And down here, that's Stonewall's brigade, Talaferro's brigade, and this is Turner Ashby's cavalry. It's got 2 regiments there. They were split into separate forces. So they're actually all occupying that hex of 3, and the Confederates had the initiative and marched to engage Shields. Number 5 there is another unit of Union cavalry. 1 is Banks's division. He's just sitting south of, well, my camera's moving a little, just south of Harrisonburg, near Chestnut Ridge. 6 is Union cavalry. They went down here to try and scout out this area. 2, I believe, is part of Stonewall Jackson's division. It's just 1 brigade. He's left behind. 5 is Ewell's division. It force marched down the Rockingham Pike. It is fatigued. So what will happen now is we'll fight a battle between Shields' division versus 2 brigades of Stonewall Jackson's outside Harrisonburg. We'll see how that goes. Following that, the Union forces 1, 5 and 6 will be allowed to move. They may go down and engage Ewell. They'll be slightly outnumbered, but it's interesting terrain down there. This division is sitting behind the river line. It's at Cub Run. So, whereas Ewell is sitting on the other side of Cub Run. So it could make for an interesting battle if Banks opts to go down and have a crack at Ewell. Down south here, now that is Johnson. So he has 2 small brigades of infantry. That is the Virginia militia in Staunton. They can't move in this scenario. So that is 2 small brigades, 3 regiments each. They're just probably trying to hold it. Now over here, 7, that is Milroy's brigade. They're marching it from McDowell through the Shenandoah Mountains, through that road there. Far up there, there's number 8, you can just see on the top of the camera screen. That's sitting in Franklin. It can't move. All the Union reinforcements will come in Franklin. In fact, I need to get them to roll for that in this turn. But we'll have a fight coming into there, which will play next week. As you can see on the table here, we've got that's all the Confederate forces for the campaign. We're a little short on Union, but we'll manage since all the forces aren't engaged at any one time. As you can see, the little counters that I've made, the little caps, I'll see if I can bring one up so that you can see that there. Put the numbers on them. Printed them out in my 3D printer. Same thing for the. As I said, I was sick of putting sticky tape with Union markers behind them. One of the guys said, we need something a bit better, that's a bit more aesthetically pleasing. So I came up with these. See if I can get that in shot. So there's those there. So there's a little slit in the kepi, and they've come up quite well. I've printed nearly over 100 of them so far. But I'll leave it there, and I'll tape in another week. So I'll put this up for now and we'll see how we go. Okay, back with an update. So we played the first few turns of the campaign, and we've got ourselves a battle tonight. So I'll just bring it down to the table. So the table represents basically what I measured 1 hex on the map, approximately thereof, probably a little larger, particularly down the long end of the table. So this is the Harrison Turnpike heading south from Harrisonburg. Harrisonburg's at the top end of the table, just off the table there. What you can see in shot, and I'll zoom in slowly. What's down there is that's the Toll House, and then come down here, that's Dunkard Church. Couldn't really find any maps of this area historically that I could use, so I've sort of made it up. There is a creek just off to the side here, and I've put a bit of a farm there, the track. So what we'll play is we'll use blinds. As you can see, I've got these below here. So if you can't see the troops, you won't know what's coming. So this will be Jackson's brigade, Stonewall brigade. I think it's also Talaferro's brigade, with 2/3 of Ashby Turner's cavalry. So it's 2 decent sized regiments. A substantial amount of guns. I'm expecting around 10 sections that they'll be bringing on, so it's going to be dominated by artillery. The Union, we're looking at Shields' division of 3 brigades. So the Confederates are outnumbered. The cavalry's about even. The Union will bring on at least 2 regiments from different angles. We'll have one coming from this road here. Ashby Turner's brigade will enter on this road here, and the remainder of the cavalry come up this road here. So this is the main turnpike heading to Harrisonburg. So we'll see what happens. So over to the flank, and I'll walk you over to the map. And this is our map. So what we have down here, Confederates split Johnson's units, so he's covering off on the river sections, guarding Staunton. Over here we've got Milroy has left McDowell and marched across the mountains through the pass there, currently sitting at Mawson's shanty. Over here, okay, so 1, 3 and 4 are actually here, so we're just in that hex there. 3 and 2, Shields and some cavalry. 4 is another cavalry just off to the side, so I've just got them there, and that's Ashby Turner's 6 coming up from the side. Over here, you'll force march down the Rockingham Pike. So he is fatigued. The Union put some cavalry down in Cole's Mill. That gave him a fairly good idea of what was the vicinity. This is the 3rd Brigade from Jackson's division. It's just sitting on that river there. That's Banks and a cavalry regiment sitting on the flank there. He's just south of Chesapeake Ridge, and we haven't moved them yet. That was the initial move. The Confederates had the initiative. They moved first on the map. They opted not to move Ewell, so he stayed there. So they've moved, they haven't, but they are now engaged. So they've opted to take the battle. Depending on what happens here, we'll then move over to this section here to see what occurs. So I'll be back with you later. I'm hoping to try and film as we go. Okay, so turn 1. Union Infantry Brigade has been put on. This is we're playing blinds. So you can see the blind cannons. They've been put on because the Confederate cavalry have cantered up the road and they've seen each other. The units behind can't be seen. As you can see, there's the rest of the Confederates. There are some units that are still not on the table and they'll come on later as reinforcements. So that is turn 1. Okay. Alright. I missed turn 2. Well, I missed turn 2, everyone. Bad Dave. So we're in turn 3. So that's Jackson's brigade coming on. As we can see over here, so walk around. There is a huge Union cavalry regiment. So one stand is 40 men in this game, so it is significant. And over here we've got Union infantry. And on the far side, and I'm seeing Matt as he moves. We've got the Union cavalry have deployed into line to face off against the Confederate cavalry on the hill. But there's a big cavalry brigade, infantry brigade, I should say, coming up behind. So this is turn 3. So still a few blinds in play, and we'll let the Union keep moving. Alright, we've just finished turn 4. So what's happened in turn 4? The Confederates have brought on 2 more blinds, and they're behind a very low hill which denies the Union the ability to see them. The Union have deployed their cavalry, have dismounted in that wood, and they are facing off against some deployed infantry. Neither have engaged at this time. Stepping over here. Okay, we've just had an artillery duel between those batteries in front and those batteries way over there outside the toll house. The Union inflicted 1 casualty on the Confederates. The Confederates have backed off the hill. They are slightly outnumbered with an infantry brigade and that cavalry coming. Union still have 1 blind to play. They've also occupied the wood. So we're going into turn 5. It's turn 6. Turn 6. We're just doing the moves. So that enormous Union cavalry regiment has backed right off. It's a bit scared.
Down the other side.
It's a bit scared of them. Some Confederate infantry. This Confederate blind has not appeared, but the gun battery has. The gunner has come over, is looking at that infantry that's coming over. We're all moving. So the artillery duel has been going.
He just moves.
He goes with them Hines, that's right.
So is that what that other one back there was another cavalry unit, was it?
So the cannon battery, the Union have lost a section of the one on the road, and the Confederates have lost a section of their parents. As we can see over here, we'll walk over. You see Terry's arms and its legs. Here's the Union. There's the Union Infantry Brigade. Pretty nasty. Union Cavalry have crested the hill, and we revealed another blind. There's 2 regiments of Confederate cavalry. As the Confederates here are deploying to meet the fight. So we'll see what happens. So we're about to go into firing. Okay, it's turn
6.
6? It's turn 6. So we've just done the firing. So there hasn't been a lot of decent firing, artillery still engaging, but the good part was, as we've noticed, just bumped the terrace. So over here, the combined company of Union Cavalry crested the hill, and his boys with his hand and thing. There's lots of bodies, and the Confederate cavalry was sitting back on the lee side on defend orders, which means they fired at best rate. So they're sitting there with their carbines. Union cavalry crested the hill, and there was a carbine exchange. Now, looking at the rules, which quite surprised us, the Union cavalry fired with 32 dice, needing 8 or more on D10s to hit, and he caused me, I lost 3 stands. The Confederate cavalry lost 3 stands and a couple extra casualties. So, as you can see, there's nothing here anymore. The Confederates, because they're on defend and not moving, fired with 48 dice. And in some instances I needed 6s and 7s to hit. The Union had 2 stands left. Following a morale test, a roll of 1, they routed, so the entire regiment has dispersed. So, first blood to the mighty rebels. So we'll see what the next few turns. Okay. Hi again, everyone. So we're just going to do a summary of the first battle of Harrisonburg, or south of Harrisonburg. So we finished a few moves on Friday evening. We're leaving it for a week, mostly because of my commitments with my wife's birthday. I'd be a good husband after all. So I thought I'd walk you through some of the things that have been going on. So Lieutenant Ashby's brigade has entered the table, and it's moved up here. I'll just use the stick. It's artillery battery, which is 6-pounder smoothbores, are sitting on that hill. Now Ashby has remained hidden. We want to keep the Union guessing because they're sitting on the lee side of this hill. There's a nice little hill there. So they can't be seen, and we've played blinds here, so it keeps everyone guessing a bit. So I'm going to walk you around. So Dunkard Church here on the Harrison Pike. So the Confederates have set up a nice defensive line here behind the Stonewall in the forest. They've got one regiment out here in this area of wood, facing up against that enormous cavalry regiment, and that happens to be the 5th New York. So if you haven't played Mr. Lincoln's War, one infantry stand is the equivalent of 80 men, and a cavalry stand is 40 men. Okay? And it takes 3 hits to remove an infantry stand and 2 hits to remove a cavalry. And you're rolling D10s to cause hits. Out here, there's a Union brigade. Just going to go duck in and see who that is. That's Sullivan's brigade of Shields Division. He's advanced through that area of wood. They've put a gun battery here, and they're hoping to engage the rebel gun battery on the hill. Now, I've been in communication with Stephen, who is the purveyor of all things good about this set of rules. He's the chap who wrote them. We made a few errors. I've been through the rules and I can't find them, but needless to say, we'll detract a few things. So for this, batteries on defend orders, which are these ones here, can only engage in counter battery fire. They can't engage infantry because they're defending against them with battery. So they have to go to hold orders to fire at that infantry that's just come out of that wood, Sullivan's brigade. So I'll just walk you around here. So over here, this is Talaferro's brigade. It's occupying this little farming area. its batteries are deployed, one to fire across the table at those Union, one to support their infantry with this Union brigade behind the hill. There's 2 cavalry regiments. Now we did make some errors in this combat. Again, couldn't find them in the rule book, still can't, but in discussions I put a question up to the forum. Stephen replied, thank you Stephen. Mounted cavalry don't get the 2d10 for initial volley, they only get 1, but commanded target, so that's an additional d10. So essentially there were 12 stands of Confederate cavalry here, 2 regiments, all sitting there with their carbines. The Union cavalry came over that hill and there was an exchange of carbine fire. So originally we calculated an enormous amount of dice, which we will change, and as the umpire I will re-roll prior to the next game. I've sort of half done it already, just to see what it looks like. So the amount of dice being rolled is nearly quartered, and they're needing 7s and 8s to hit on a d10. So instead of wiping out the Union, they'll probably still be on the hill. But he did roll pretty poorly on the morale test, so I suspect they're going to retire. Union have deployed their artillery, which is quite interesting because they can't see anything. So I'm not sure what his thought processes are. They're shielding them with an infantry regiment, but that hill and that farm sort of block the line of sight, as we mentioned earlier in the game. They do have 1 blind. So number 6 has entered the table. It's a couple of moves behind because the commanding officer of the Union forgot he had a extra brigade coming up the road, which is Tyler's brigade. So I said, oh well, that's just the fog of war. At that point the rebels thought they had a fairly even fight. 2 brigades on 2 brigades. Rebels have taken a bit of a defensive posture. But now that he's sort of gotten aware that there's more troops coming on, obviously because it's just table talk, he's considering possibly retiring from the field. Though I'm actually sort of playing. We had one of the rebel players couldn't make it for this game, so I've taken essentially the cavalry brigade, and I've been moving Teleferro as well. So I'm of the opinion that the rebels are actually in a fairly good position to take on these Unionists, mostly because I think we can hold that area over there where the church is. It's only 1 brigade. If they've come out, sadly, we can't actually shoot them because we've got poor rifle muskets and we're just outside of the range. The artillery, though, would like to switch, but we need to get rid of the Union artillery up by that farm, which I'll zoom in for you now. There we go. So there they are. There's the Union artillery sitting by that farm. Well, actually, not the farm, I should say. That's the toll house on the turnpike. So one thing we did for this, I did for this game, and thanks to Jared for helping out, was naming the units. So we were continually sticking pieces of paper to the back of our command stands to determine who they were. So what we've done here, had a bit of a play. I'll come down there, and as you can see, there's a little kepi. It's got a little slit in it, and we can put the details on. So it just slips in and out. So totally reusable. Just means you got an extra piece to move, but it looks quite nice with the blue and the grey kepis on the battlefield. Also, I've been playing with order chits from my 3D printing. So these are the primary orders for Mr. Lincoln's War. Fallback, recovery, retire, hold, defend, move and charge. I do have a grey charge because I thought it'd be nice to have a grey one as well, just for the reps. Recently I've also been playing with creating firing sticks. So this is a smoothbore musket. That's a carbine. I've got the good rifle muskets and shotguns and pistols coming. I've just got to stick them together essentially because I've actually printed them off. They've actually come out really nice. I'm pretty happy with them. They're very smooth. Found a nice setting in my printer called ironing, and that adds to that smooth finish because this is actually a little more expensive quality PLA mat, as it's called, and my little bamboo just spits them out pretty quickly with the nice wording, which sits 1 mil above the flat. So look, I'll keep you updated when we move into the next phase of this battle. We do have a movement phase to occur on the gaming map. That will be a union phase, and we'll see if Banks engages Yule. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.